Yeah, and then I was like, last night, when I started doing something home, I was like, she ain't gonna want to hear about it.
Yeah.
I guess they're like, first off, like, they could be green, they could be blue, they could be pink, like, they change the color every year. I mean, they change the color every year. Yeah.
Well, they do.
No, stop.
Yeah, I see that. Morning.
Morning, Commissioner. That's good. David Smith. How are you this morning?
How are you doing?
Doing very well. You?
Good. Morning. Everybody else on the line?
Hi, Jenny Pachano. Good morning.
Morning, Jenny. Over there. Okay. Kelly, are you on the line?
I'm trying to get it on. For some reason, it's not coming on. Bear with me.
Okay, good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock. And we'll rise for the opening prayer and pledge allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, we begin a new month with you at our sides. We ask you for your guidance and establish our steps in our daily lives. Today we'll recognize 5 employees with over 90 years of service. We are thankful for their lives and dedication to assist others in our communities. Guide all our employees as they work diligently to make our county better. Lord, next Monday, June 6th, we remember those in the greatest generation that stormed the beaches in Normandy 78 years ago for freedom. It was the largest air, land, and sea invasion in history. It was the beginning of the end of World War II. Only a few of those brave heroes remain, but their children and grandchildren are among us to carry on their legacies. We will never forget and always honor those brave souls. Now, we ask you to guide our meeting today and provide us the wisdom, insight, and knowledge to make sound decisions. May our decisions be in alignment with your will and pleasing to you. We humbly pray these things in your name. Amen.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, we'll convene the Commissioners' public meeting at this time, and we'll ask for the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried. And then we have public comments on the agenda items only at this time. Hearing none, we'll move on to our next, which is Operations 1.6. Maya?
Yes, nonprofit informational series, what they do for you. With us today is the American Rescue Workers.
Maureen? Could you come up to the podium, please? And please state your name and thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. There's a lot more people in the room than I anticipated. My name is Dawn Aston. My husband and I are the pastor and executive directors of the American Rescue Workers, and our organization is now, and I just want to say I feel really safe with all the guns. We have been involved with the rescue workers for about 40 plus years. And this is our 88th year in the city of Williamsport in Lycoming County. So, and we have with us today our one and only Valerie Thessler, who is our Director of Development and Community Engagement, and she does a better job at public speaking than I do. So I'm going to turn this over to her and let her tell you who we are and what we're doing in Lycoming County.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn. You're sweet. Thank you to the commissioners for having us here today. I want to just thank you personally for all the support that you've given us in the past. I've been at ARW for almost 5 years, and throughout that 5 years, we have come to you a variety of times asking for support for specific projects, and you have not said no. So we had a roof leak that needed fixed that you helped us do. We installed a brand new security system at our Elmira Street shelter, thanks to your support. And I know some of the folks in this room really enjoy that security system, right? Parole, probation. Yeah, you guys have definitely utilized that system. So that's been really great for us. And you also helped us purchase a new skid steer. So we were actually paying an outside vendor to maintain our property. And you helped us to purchase that, which has been a really good cost saving for us. You also supported us through COVID with $150,000 worth of gifts in order to keep our operation running and to keep individuals fed and off the streets during COVID. So that was really instrumental to our work. And we've also been the recipient of a significant amount of community development block grant money and fair funding. Our fair funding for the last 3 years, we've received $300,000, and that $300,000 has kept 444 families from facing eviction. So families who were literally going to be homeless without that support remained in their homes. So we want to start by thanking you for always supporting the things that we're trying to do for the community. So I'm supposed to be here today to talk about what we do for the community, and typically when I give a tour or I talk about the work of American Rescue Workers, I start off by saying, so most people in the community know us for, we're the people who come and pick up your stuff after you have a yard sale, right? If you want to clean out your kid's closet, you give us your stuff. And then I normally will go in to talk about how there's a reason why we do that. We use that funding to support our programs and our ministry. But in this group, I want to talk specifically about how those yard sale pickups affect Lycoming County specifically. So I have some numbers for you to share. So one of our goals is to keep things out of the landfill, right? So we have clothing collection boxes out in the community. We do home pickups every day, Monday through Saturday. So last year we sent 2,000 pounds of donated goods to each one of our 10 thrift stores every week for 52 weeks, which is over 1 million pounds of donated goods that went out for sale in our thrift stores in the surrounding communities to Williamsport. And the goods that were donated that were not good enough for sale, so if someone donates something that has a rip or has a stain on it and we're not able to sell it in our stores, we do recycle those goods, and we recycled 2 million pounds of those goods. So 2 million pounds that stayed out of the landfill, and the other million that went out to our thrift stores. So we're really proud of being able to do that as a service to the county and to the community. There aren't a lot of other organizations who will come and pick up a couch if you need to get rid of it. So we're glad to be able to provide that service, and in turn, those items, primarily fund our homeless shelter and social services programs. So our 3 homeless shelters here in Williamsport, which I know you're fairly familiar with, our men's long-term work rehabilitation shelter, in which we receive many referrals from the folks in the room, is a 42-bed men's long-term work rehabilitation shelter for men who are experiencing significant barriers to self-sufficiency. So what does that mean, right? So either they're leaving incarceration, they have addiction, a history of addiction, perhaps they're just living paycheck to paycheck. All circumstances are different, but at any given time we have 42 men who are living in that men's long-term work rehabilitation program with the goal of helping them to become self-sufficient and continue to be contributing members of our community. The Saving Grace Shelter is one of our biggest gems in the community. So it's our family emergency shelter. It's the only true family emergency shelter in our community. So there are some other organizations who do really great work with families and with housing. But Saving Grace is the only place that you can go in a true emergency. If you become homeless at 8 p.m., you can get on a waiting list for some of the other programs. But Saving Grace is the only place that you and your family can go when you are literally homeless. So at this point, we're serving anywhere between 350 and 400 individuals at the Saving Grace Shelter. And we serve right around 250 men in the men's long-term work program at Elmira Street. And then our third shelter is our men's transient shelter. So that is a shelter for men who don't need the long-term work rehabilitation program. Maybe they're already employed, or maybe they expect their stay in Williamsport to be more temporary. So that's a transitional shelter where they come in at 4 p.m., they eat dinner, they sleep, they shower, they go out at 8 in the morning. One of the great things that we provide to all of our shelter residents is 3 meals a day. So we have a really amazing chef, Mark, who works in our kitchen, and he provides about 100 meals 3 times a day to all of our residents and our staff for lunch. And he does that with goods donated from our local community. So he only purchases about 5% of the things that he uses to make all of those meals. So we have relationships with Giant, Target, Wegmans, Walmart, Wingert's, Crumble Cookie, unfortunately, for my waistline. But so what he does is every day we receive around 500 pounds of food that has reached what we call the end of its usable shelf life. And Mark uses that to transform it into meals every single day. So our food costs are very low. And when we do need to purchase food, we work collaboratively with the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. So we have a relationship with them not only to service our kitchen, but at our social services center, we also have a food pantry that's available to anyone in the county who's in need of food assistance. And for many, many years, individuals were allowed to come in monthly to receive kind of their grocery order. During COVID, we had such great support from the food bank, and the availability of food was everywhere. So we opened it up to individuals could come literally anytime they needed food to feed their families. And when COVID ended, we thought, people need food to feed their families. We're not going to close our doors and tell them that they can only continue to come once a month. So we've left that open for individuals to come weekly to get groceries for their families. At this point, we see as many as 750 families per month who are utilizing that service, and it's 480,000 pounds of food that we're purchasing from the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank every year. Fortunately, we're able to purchase that from them at a discount. It's approximately 18 cents per pound that we're paying for the food for those individuals. We also had the, opportunity to open a pet food pantry at the Social Services Center at ARW. So St. Anne's was running a pet food pantry, and during COVID, their congregation wasn't comfortable doing so. So they gave us the pet food, and now we have a pet food pantry at American Rescue Workers. So individuals who are coming in seeking assistance for themselves can also get food for their dogs and cats, which we love. That's kind of near and dear to our hearts. So we're excited we're able to do that. The other thing we offer at the Social Services Center, and I mentioned earlier the FAIR funding, is rental and utility assistance. So our mission of American Rescue Workers is to prevent hunger and homelessness, right? So we know at American Rescue Workers and all the other community service providers know that it's easier to keep someone in their home and keep them housed than to have them experience homelessness and then to have to start going through the cycle that all of our agencies respond to. So we get about $320,000 annually in rental and utility assistance. $100,000 of that is the FAIR funding. Some of that comes from the Plankenhorn Foundation. We're really, really grateful to have a new relationship that I was actually just able to share with Commissioner Marabito at a meeting last week, and I wanted to make sure you were aware of. There's an organization called the Lycoming County Veterans Transition Center, and they had the mission to open a homeless shelter in Williamsport for veterans. So they came to American Rescue Workers and they said to us, "Can you show us how to do this?" And we said, "Sure." So we showed them how to do it, and then they said, "Why would we do this if you're already doing it? Maybe we can just support you. Could we please find a way to support you?" So as conversations went on, we realized that that $320,000 worth of funding that I mentioned at our Social Services Center unfortunately doesn't serve the entire need. So there are times where we will have as many as 50 families a week that we are turning away, that we cannot help with rent and we cannot help with utility assistance. And as an agency and as a community, we want to be sure that if those individuals coming for help are veterans, that we don't have to say no. So what we decided to do was we received $25,000 a year from the Lycoming County Veterans Transition Center, and it's an undesignated fund at the Social Services Center where we can help a veteran or their family with any need that they have. So while the FAIR money is very specific to we have to help with rental assistance and this is the amount and this is the criteria, the Veterans Fund is undesignated, meaning if they have a flat tire and their car's in the shop and they need new tires and they can't get to work because they can't drive their car, we can get them new tires. So we're really proud of that partnership and that relationship to help serve the veterans of our community. So in addition to the rental and utility assistance that we provide at the Social Services Center, we also are providing case management to those individuals. So it is our goal to not be a crutch and to not make the problem worse for individuals in our community. We do not pay rent and utilities directly to individuals. We pay them to landlords, to utility companies, and individuals are only allowed to seek services from us once every 12 months. So our goal is to provide case management to help them find out what their barriers are, what they can do different in their budget, and other community resources that they can take advantage of. So that's kind of the ARW programs in a nutshell, from the prevention entities and then the shelter response that we provide. And as I mentioned, our thrift stores are a big source of revenue for us, our primary revenue source at this point. Can I answer any specific questions?
How long have you been with them?
4.5 years.
4.5
Yes.
years. And you sound like somebody that's been there for 30.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
No. That's amazing.
Aw,
and
thank
it shows
you.
your dedication and
Thank you.
passion for your positions.
Thank you. Thank you. The work that we do kind of speaks for itself. I'm proud that I've had some good groundwork laid with the work that Dawn and Sam have done, and there's a lot of really good things to be proud of. Dawn will always say American Rescue Workers has been doing all of these things for 88 years. We just recently started hiring some people to start telling everyone about it. So we're really proud to be here to have the opportunity to share that with you.
Valerie, you can hear the passion in your voice, and American Rescue Workers is thank God we have them in our community, because many communities are faced with homelessness, food that that do 500,000 pounds of food is incredible. You fed people through COVID, and it's just incredible what your agency has done.
Thank you.
I know that being in probation previously, and we have room for full probation today. The homelessness is a serious problem. We were fortunate enough to have you as an asset to place individuals there.
Thank you.
And it's not just people that have substance abuse problems, or it's people that have been one paycheck away and have lost their jobs. And you were fortunately there to help get them back on track. I have to think back, my nephew was over in New York for the Parade 1 Thanksgiving, and he went into a pizza shop one night at 10:30, and there was a gentleman asked him for some money. He said he was hungry, so he went in and got some pizza and brought it out to him, and they had a conversation, and found out this gentleman was originally from Lycoming County and lost his business, and ended up in the streets of New York, and was living off the streets of New York. And he said, I would love to find that stable force to get you back on track. So it happens everywhere, and thank God we have you folks here.
And you're right, there is that stereotype of, it's just people facing addiction that are homeless, but we could tell you stories. Dawn could tell you stories for hours. We had a gentleman who had stage 4 colon cancer and was waiting to receive disability, and it was taking, 18 months to get it approved, and his family just didn't have space to care for him. So he lived in our shelter until the day he died. He received hospice care in the dorm at American Rescue Workers. It's not just people who have potentially made poor choices. It's people who have, real life experiences that they need help with.
And with the economy, inflation getting worse, we're going to see more and more of it. And thank God we have you as angels of our community.
Thank you.
And one thing that sets Lycoming County apart from many other counties are our nonprofits. And we're thankful we have.
We hear that a lot. We hear people say, what do you mean you have homeless shelters in Williamsport? There aren't homeless people in Williamsport. I don't see any. And I say, that's because we have homeless shelters in Williamsport.
So, you mentioned case management, and first thanks to Sam and to Dawn and to all you, and extend that to all the staff there from us. But we know that there are ways that we were able to help you in material things like the roof and everything like that. Case management is oftentimes overlooked in the funding that comes from the federal and the state government. Tell us about case management. Tell us about whether you need more, because I've heard from the different agencies that where they really need resources is to be able to provide case management, so that we are not running people through the same cycle of poverty, get a job, don't know how to budget. And some of it is not the employees or the workers' fault. I mean, if an employer in this county doesn't provide sick time, and there are many employers who don't provide sick time.
Right.
So I run into people who basically had some, and I'm not talking COVID, this is pre-COVID and everything. They don't have a way to pay their bills, right? They don't have sick time. They are living check to check, and the employer says, or the other thing that employers do is they'll say, listen, we don't need the assembly line right now. We're going to shut it down for 2 weeks. People don't get a check. We can't, in 2022, we can't be running our economy that way, because what it ends up doing is churning our workers down instead of bringing them up, So, but tell us about case management and how we could possibly.
Okay, so in our specific situation with our shelters, we have 70 homeless individuals at any given time, and we have 2 directors and 1 case manager who's working with all those individuals. So every single day, helping them, guiding them through those choices that they're making. Not to mention, so when you're at American Rescue Workers, you have the general accountability of Sam and Dawn and the rest of us, right? So if you have to come to devotions at 8 o'clock every morning and see Dawn, you're probably going to be following the rules, right? And we have, so for the men specifically who live in the men's long-term work program, we take 30% of their income once they receive a job, and we put it in a savings account for them. So they will have to come to us if they, want to make a security deposit or want to get an apartment or things like that. So they're being held accountable by us. But what we see is when they leave, they no longer have the case management following through from our agency and the general accountability of our staff on a day-to-day basis. And from our perspective, when we're seeing as many as 700 people come through our shelters every year, we can't continue to follow from a case management standpoint these individuals. We would have to have 50 case managers because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of individuals. So what we do see is the cycle will repeat. So the individuals will get a job, or they'll get a stimulus check or a tax return or whatever. They think, they're millionaires. They have $800. They can get an apartment. They get an apartment. They may be self-sufficient for a couple months. Then they start to make choices that don't make sense for them. And then 6 months later, or sometimes they make it a year, they're back in our shelter going, well, I really wanted to buy new furniture, and I just thought that my apartment would be so nice if I bought new furniture, and then I wasn't able to pay my rent. So that's the thing, that they're coming from a lifetime of a lack of soft skills. So what we say with our men's shelter specifically is, these individuals are not coming from homes where adults were setting their alarm and waking them up in the morning and getting them ready for school, packing their backpack and packing their lunch and going on with their day like many of us live our lives. These individuals are coming from crisis situations in their lives. We have a gentleman in our shelter who saw his dad shoot his mom when he was 4 years old. Then his dad killed himself, and he sat there with his 2 dead parents for 4 days before anyone found him. Then he went into foster care, where he was beaten and abused for the rest of his adult, adolescent life. Then when he turned 18, he was turned out, and he has tick marks on his back from where his foster parents used to slash his skin when he would misbehave. And then they would pour nail polish remover or something of the sense, on his back to teach him a lesson. So when this individual comes to American Rescue Workers, and we work with him for a year, and we teach him what he needs to do to become self-sufficient, and we give him the tools that he needs, do you think that when he goes into his first apartment by himself, he's going to be able to manage that? And that's what we see, and that's when we kind of lose them back into the system. And then it's, oh, well, we saw that they're hanging out at Wegmans, so they must not have a place to live, or, oh, we saw they're doing this, or, oh, we saw they're doing that, or they're trying to get money from this agency or that agency. And then the cycle kind of repeats for those individuals. So it really is when they leave our programs that we kind of lose them back into old patterns, if that makes sense.
So I think that part of what you teach them is about love, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's what was sort of, it's the example you gave is very extreme, although there are many, many folks that we meet all the time, right? Everyone has trauma in their life, and some people get the skills and the resiliency to be able to live with it and work with it, and other people, from wealthy people down to poor people, drink alcohol or do whatever, right? These aren't bad people. And even the choices about the furniture, it's not bad people. Wealthy people go out and buy a Maserati that they can't afford, right?
Yeah.
The difference is that usually there is a safety net or a way, whether it's a credit card or something. So I think that for me, what I've really learned is that we need to try to provide as much as we can help in the case management, so that even after people left, now it's all voluntary, you can't force them once they leave, right? But even after they left, if they wanted to come back for courses on budgeting, or come back just to talk about, hey, how's it going? What's going hard, what's not going hard. So I think the three of us maybe can put our heads together in the future and stuff, and if there's ways for us to do that, we could end up really cutting down on the cycle. Because we do know, we see them, our parole officers see them on a repeat. So, the prison, the ones who really fall through. So, but anyway, thank you very much. It's been very educational.
One thing I want to add is your drop boxes that you have donations at.
Yes.
Ask the public to please do not put your rubbish at these sites. If you have something that you would like picked up, like a couch, call them. They'll come look at it.
Yes.
Yes. I'd be happy to. But once you put it out there and it's weathered on, it's worthless.
Absolutely.
And then they have to spend money to have it hauled over to the landfill. Then it takes money out of your pocket that you can be assisting these people that need the help. So not only are you dumping, you're costing them money. So please contact them. They'll be glad to come and look at it.
Sure will.
And just don't stick it by one of the boxes and drive off. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay if you like, or you can leave if you choose to. It's up to you.
We know you're busy.
We know you're very busy. Thank you for being here. Okay, Maya.
All right, next item, 2.1, we're going to recognize the following individuals on their service to the Lycoming County.
Okay, first of all, we have Pre-Release Center, Christine Walters. Rob? You can speak. Yeah. And then she can come up and speak. Come on.
Why don't you come on up, Chris, so everyone can see you.
Come on up.
She doesn't want to? Oh, Carrie can sit
Come on.
with you if you want.
Come on.
Come on. Makeup, please. Look at the camera.
Good morning, and thank you for taking the time to recognize the longevity of our outstanding employees. Chris Walters started her career in Lycoming County when she was hired as a part-time correction officer in the female unit in November of 2001. In May of 2002, she was promoted to a full-time rotational correctional officer for both the male and female units at the prison. In 2007, when the Lycoming County Pre-Release Center opened its female unit, she was promoted again to the control desk officer position, where she has continued her outstanding performance for the past 15 years. For those of you who know Chris, it's very hard to have a bad day when she is around. Whether it's her infectious laugh, her jokes, or her stories, she always has something positive to your day. Chris said her career with Lycoming County has been a very rewarding experience. Both the people who she works with and the people she supervised would agree. Chris recently went on an Alaskan cruise, and she is planning on retiring later this year. She wants to continue traveling the United States and the Caribbean islands when she retires. Chris, thank you for your years of service and dedication to Lycoming County. We wish you the best.
Thanks. Step up to the mic, please.
That's good.
Hang on
You
one
know,
second.
Christine, we were going to say we were hoping you'd stay another 10 years.
Another 10?
Yeah, but you...
Can you give me a raise?
Can I? Well, that's a good negotiating tactic.
Oh, let's see how sincere that is.
Well, thank you for your service. And, you know, as a commissioner, this is one of the best things we get to do is recognize our employees because you're the most important asset the county has. If the employees don't get the work done, the community suffers. And we thank you for your service and for your dedication. It's not an easy job, and we appreciate what you do. We'll pin the certificate. We'd like to now get a picture with you. Mine, you can
Yeah, I can get it. I got you.
Oh, yeah.
I can see your pearly lights.
Thank you.
Would the, anything you want to add for Christine?
No, just to say thank you, Christine, for those 20 years and enjoy the traveling.
Okay, next we have Coroner's Office, Kate Nicholls, 10 years of service. We have our coroner here today, Chuck. Morning.
Morning. Morning.
Do you want to have her?
Yeah,
come
she
up
can
so
come
they-
up. Yeah, come on up.
Come on up.
So, I didn't plan a speech, but I know a little bit about her history. Kate's been with us actually more than 10 years. She started part-time when Ian Harton was my secretary back in the day, and then she graduated from Lycoming College with her bachelor's degree, and then she had already been doing a lot of the work that Ian, filling in for her, so she knew the job. So it was a very easy transition from Ian retiring to Kate coming on board. And then the last 10 years, she's stuck here. And I get choked up because she's been our right-hand person for all of us. We're like a family. I mean, we're such a small group, and we have been drugged through everything. The last 2.5 years with COVID, 10 years of drug deaths, highway fatalities, the worst scenarios anyone can imagine, we're there. And we deal with it, these homicides and everything that goes on. And she's been the person there to kind of the glue that keeps us all functioning when things are just coming unraveled. So she's taken over, she stepped in and she took over Safe Kids, handling a lot of the stuff that we're doing preventative-wise in the community. She's overseeing the Cribs for Kids program. We've brought in tens of thousands of dollars in grant funding through working together for cribs, for spike helmets, for other child safety seats. Anything in it that we do child safety-wise has been grant funded. A lot of that comes from the efforts that Kate's put into the office. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Kate, like Sandy?
Sure. I'm a little more prepared than he was. But it's a good thing he cried first, I guess, right? All right. So, my job in the coroner's office has changed significantly over the past 10 years. I started as a clerk 3, was promoted to a clerk 4, and was then retitled to an administrative assistant deputy coroner after passing the coroner's basic education course. What I found over the years is that coroners are overlooked, but that we have an incredibly important job. As my fellow deputies will tell you, dealing with death is sometimes the easy part. It's dealing with the living that can be difficult. One of the worst parts of the job, outside of child deaths, for sure, is making death notification to next of kin. Telling someone their loved one is not returning home is a nightmare for them, just as it is for us to deliver the news. And unfortunately, it's kind of an experience that no matter how many times you do it, you'll never erase from memory and how you felt in those moments. The quote of the office has kind of been protecting county residents through the investigation of death. In investigating death, our goal is to offer comfort and closure to families, which is the light at the end of the tunnel to the hundreds of cases we handle a year. I could go on about the actual job that we do, but unless you've walked in our shoes, you simply can't understand. So instead, I'll talk about how I've survived the last 10 years at the county. I'm incredibly blessed to work with some amazing people. I do not have coworkers. I have family members that I work with, even if you're not all biological. Stop crying, Alexis. So, I wrote about them. Every office needs Mary Louise to make them feel good about themselves. She butters us up so much every day that she almost makes, stop it, she almost makes my bags under my eyes disappear, almost, from the pages that we get all night long. Alexis has one of the most important and underpaid jobs. She starts the coffee in the morning. She's always looking up to us, which makes me feel really good, but it's only because of her short stature. She's small in stature, but mighty in her passion for her job, and I really hope that in the future, as her son grows, we can better accommodate for her to enjoy all the activities with him. I know how often the time I've missed with my own boys and the time my dad missed with me growing up weighs heavily on me. It makes me question if I will continue for another 10 years. Gerald, who unfortunately is not here, is constant comic relief, not just to me, but anyone he talks to in the county on any day, and it's much needed in a job like this, where it's often an emotional roller coaster ride. He makes me laugh daily, and after 10 years, he's picked up when I need it. Lastly, how could I forget the man who's held down the fort for over 20 years? He needs a bigger pin, just a bigger pin. The same guy I so humbly get to call Dad. Although I shame him some days for bringing me into the chaos of the coroner's office, I can say that without a doubt it has been an incredible experience working alongside him. While he's helped me grow in my career, I've gotten to watch him blossom in his, and I know without my position here I probably would have never gained the strong bond I have with my dad. If you want a selfless, not so political politician that will dedicate his life to his community, look no further than Mr. Kiesling himself. When he's not in the office, he's thinking about the office 24/7, 365. So without all of them, I really would not be here for 10 years. We are definitely a family. I wish this feeling upon every county employee, that your departments feel the same, because that is what keeps me here. It is really not the pay, it is not the PTO time or the health insurance, it is the family that I have here. So when I leave my family at home, I know that I'm just joining my other one.
Thank you, Kate. And the coroner's office is small, but they are mighty, and what the work they accomplish is incredible for the small staff they have. And it has to be one of the toughest professions out there. Just the emotional aspect, what you see, what the time it takes away from your family, holidays, weekends. You know, the drop of the hat. It could be Christmas. It could be any day of the week, any time of the night or day. You're called and you have to go. And we thank you for your service. It's a far cry from the old TV show Quincy.
Yeah.
Which is Jack Klugman, who was the county coroner, and you know, it's nothing like that was on that show. It's reality. And thank you, each one of you, for your service. And Kate, thank you.
You know, it's interesting, when I look over pre-release coroners, adult probation, domestic relations, all of our employees that we're recognizing today deal with people who are at a really difficult part of their life. And obviously, you described very eloquently, Kate, what that is like and what it feels like. You know, I think there's some poetic justice that you missed this man when you were little, but you're getting to spend a lot of time with him now when you're older, and that's really nice, you know. And the other thing that you pointed out so eloquently is that you came into the county as a clerk 1 or clerk 3, and you moved through a career. You moved through a career where you took on more responsibility, you took on more tests and so forth. And I think that's important for the public to understand, that part of what becoming a county employee can be about is building a career here. And we thank you for doing that, because obviously it makes a contribution. So hats off to both of you. I will tell you that we are trying to still struggle through the issues of the building, and I'll just put it right out there. I don't want you to think that we're not. We have not lost hope on that, and we are going to power through to find some solution. But we thank you for what you've done in terms of struggling without that. You didn't even talk about that today, going to a place and then having to deal with the fact that there aren't facilities that aren't what they should be. So thank you all, but thank you, Kate, for the 10 years.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to add that after listening to your speech, all I can say is wow. I mean, your coworkers have to be very proud of you, and I'm certain that your dad is as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just want to add to what they see every day. I don't know how many years ago, I guess it was back in the early 2000s. I was on my way to work, and Lou Yingling, who was with our office, who was following me to work that day, and there was a double fatality up on a 180, and John Kemp was a deputy sheriff at the time. He responded. He was coming to work too, and the three of us had to try to save those individuals. And the trauma that we saw that day, Louie and I talked about this for years, and there was a head-on collision. A person crossed the highway before they had the median, the guardrail there. We were looking, there was a child's car seat in the back. We thought there was a child involved. Thank God the woman had dropped off her child just previously to that. But she was still alive, and the roof was down on top of her, was crushing her. And as John and I tried to get the door open, we couldn't, because they ended up cutting the car open. And then the gentleman in the other vehicle, he was already passed. His wife was still alive. But the trauma we saw in that, and John was a retired firefighter, and he was a deputy sheriff. He had seen a lot of this as a first responder. And this is the first responders I know. We have a couple in the audience here. And what the coroner sees. and how that had an effect on us, still has an effect on us. You see this every day, and you can't erase that from your mind. So I want to thank you again for what you do each day, all of you, because those are things you can't erase from your memory.
I remember the crash.
Yeah, you cannot erase those things from your memory. And you think about they have loved ones that are going to be without them now, and you think about those families and what they have to live through, and you have to deliver that news, and the first responders have to too. So thank you, all the first responders, for what you do, what you experience each and every day, and especially the coroners and their entire staff.
You know, I'm just gonna add this, that, you know, we raised taxes in 15 and 17, and we received phone calls, okay, some negative. We implemented a $5 registration fee, and we received some phone calls. And there are many things that the commissioners do with the library board, and we receive letters and emails. And of all the letters and emails combined of those organizations, we've not received more than for his building that we need to put in. They have overwhelming public support, and we hear it. We just, I hate to say it, it's just really difficult in getting this building. Hopefully, everything comes out with the one we were looking at, and we'll go from there.
We got the appraisal back last week, and we're actually having a meeting with Chuck this afternoon. So,
And we hope it comes to fruition soon.
okay, thank you. Next would be adult probation office, Janera Kibler. Ed McCoy's here, chief of probation, to speak on behalf of Janera.
I think both come up.
Okay. But yeah, we have Matt. You want to come up too? We have him afterwards. Janera for 10 years of service, and Matt for 20 years of service.
Whether it's 10 years or 20 years, it's a long time to be a parole officer, because the average career is about 40 years. We heard stories from the American Rescue Workers and Chuck's stories. Unfortunately, we deal with that every day. The dedication that these guys have to be here 10, 20 years is remarkable. What they see on a daily basis, a lot of people can't handle. Like Commissioner Maravito said, we see people at their worst. If you remember, Commissioner Maravito, you had an opportunity to ride with us one night, and on that night we got a gun, and he got to see us find some drugs that Janera had found in a vehicle. A little bit about Janera. Her dedication to the community goes farther than just the parole office. She just became an EMT. This week, she rendered assistance to an individual who got hit by a car. It was a juvenile on a bike. So congratulations and thank you. Matt, 20 years. He was an intern, seen him grow up. Bachelor, family man. It's crazy how time flies. I know what you guys do, and I appreciate it. And the community thanks you. Good job.
Matt and Mary, or like anything, step up the microphone, say anything?
Tell us. No, go to, okay. You know, what the chief said is actually very important and often overlooked by the public. He said we got a gun and we got drugs off the street that night. And that is no small task, because oftentimes there are, with many of our folks who are on probation, they get wrapped up with the wrong individuals, and they get involved with stuff that they're not supposed to get involved with, including guns and drugs. So every time we have an opportunity to take that off the street, it obviously protects everyone. Obviously, doing that also puts the officers at risk, right? Because taking a gun from someone, things can go sideways really fast. So we appreciate that, and I think that the public should recognize that a lot of times what they think adult probation officers do, they're doing a whole lot more. I mean, my colleague could talk length about it for his 32 years, but even in the short time that I've been here, I've been able to understand and learn that they serve a function and they help in the community in a way that many people don't understand. Those two examples of the drugs and the gun are just one. Also just, sometimes finding places where people are staying that they're not supposed to stay, but where kids are also there in horrible conditions and so forth. So thank you both for your collective 30 years, 10 and 20, and we hope that you will stay longer.
Go ahead.
When you start to look at it, we have 90 years of experience here, and a number of them are going to be retiring. And it's that institutional knowledge that we lose. Prison is another, good example of an institution that's losing a lot of experience. With that, just the knowledge that you possess in our community and the people that you're dealing with, it's very important. And how do we pass that down to the people that will be replacing you someday? That's something that we all, as far as leaders in the community, need your departments to do, and do it in a very effective manner. So appreciate everything that you do.
Ed hit on that probation office. The average probation officer nationally it's actually 4.7 years, and to have people here as long as we have, it's a testament to what their dedication is and their service. And other parts of the county we've gone to, Mr. Thompson's back there, he spoke, he was with the probation office before he went to PRC. Our warden, Brad Shoemaker, he was with probation. So you see different departments that stay with other parts of the county, but the probation staff is one of the best ones in the state. Ed's been tremendous leading it. He's done 30 years to get ready to retire at the end of the month. And what you said, Commissioner, taking things off the street that need to be taken off. I want to give credit to Jess Mazzani. She's worked with the U.S. Marshals, and just recently, and we've worked with the U.S. Marshals for 20 years. 20 years. It's an extremely important relationship. One I hope continues, because what they do and the assistance they give the Marshals. Jess worked on something for 2 years. Took 7 guns off the street the other day. A convicted murder was found in a house. Different gang members were taken off the streets. These are bad actors. These are bad actors that need to be incarcerated. Those guns were going to hurt people. Every intentions with those actors carrying those guns, it wasn't for self-protection. So I want to give a shout out to probation for the work they do every day. Matt had one of the largest caseloads when I was there. He came in my office one day, he says, I can't do it anymore, I have 500 people on my caseload. 500 people. I can't do it anymore, we had to get help. Janeer's done a great job. Everyone in that office is a credit, and the reason why they stay is because of the leadership and the dedication and the family atmosphere that they have. And I was involved in that. It's a special brotherhood and sisterhood, and they do a great job. And so thank you two for your service, and for all the probation officers' service.
I got one more thing.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss if I didn't congratulate Vicky Bollay, 30 years of service.
That's right. Yeah.
She actually started with the adult probation office too, so
She's coming up next.
she can attest to what we do, and thanks for your service there too, Vicky.
And just to make sure that people, 4.7 is the average, but we always go much, much higher than that. We want people to know that if they come to work at APO, they're going to stay longer. What you said, Commissioners, and the drugs and the gun, if you talk to any police officers in this county or anywhere, they'll tell you that 90% of the crime is related to drugs. It's either people shooting each other because they've got a deal that they don't like, or it's somebody buying drugs and selling it or whatever. But a lot of the crime is related to drugs. So when we get drugs and we get guns off the street, we keep people safe who could become innocent bystanders in a shooting or otherwise harmed.
There was drugs involved in that too, I forget the amounts.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I
It's-
remember the 7 guns, but there was a lot of drugs involved in that.
Every police officer tells us that when we talk to them. It's so thank you for that.
Okay. Okay, next we have Vicky Bollay, 20 years, or 30 years of service.
Good morning. I am the Deputy Director of Domestic Relations, and I just wanted to say a few things about Vicky. She started in adult probation in 1992 as a Clerk 2, then worked up to a Clerk 3, and then in 2000 they created a new administrative officer position as an intake clerk and stayed in that position for several years before moving to an ARD officer. Around that time, Vicky returned to college, got her degree, and completed in 2013. And then in 2015, Vicky joined our office as an enforcement officer and has moved into a case manager role. A few things that I can say about Vicky: she's always so level-headed. I never hear of any arguments or whatnot in her office. We deal with people at their worst, as Commissioner Marabito said. Anytime you're dealing with people and their children and money, it's an intense situation, but Vicky is always so level-headed that we never hear any arguments usually coming from her office, which is good. We transitioned a few years ago to the conference and enforcement, so we handled both sides of the case, and she's done so well, so we're really proud to have her in our office. And soon she'll be hopefully moving to the beaches of Mexico upon her retirement in a few years, so we still have her for a couple of years yet.
Okay, Vicky?
I'm not speaking.
Sure?
I'll save it for retirement.
You know, Vicky, it's amazing when she says there's no arguing coming from your office. Maybe we ought to go over there and take some lessons. I really mean that because it's hard. It is hard with people who, as you said, are dealing in difficult moments in their life. So it helps us keep things in perspective. But thank you for the 30 years. Another example of a career at the county, right? I mean, you started in one position, you moved through to other positions, you got more education, you went on, and now you're an officer there. And so we really do appreciate that, and we just wish you luck. You're not retiring yet, so thank you for the years you have performed here.
Vicky, we worked together. You came when my son was born. 30 years later, now I have 2 grandchildren and watched your 2 sons grow and to find young man, and they're doing fantastic. You're right. I've never seen Vicky lose her temper, ever. I don't know if I've ever seen her get mad. But she's a quiet employee. She went and got her education, got further education, so she could advance. Very hard worker, very determined. She sets her mind to do something. She does it quietly, gets it done. And whatever we gave her in the past, you didn't have to go back and check it. You knew she'd do it. It was done right. She did it quietly and never wanted any rewards for it. And just went about her job every day, so thank you.
30 years is a long time, and you've seen a lot of different things, I'm sure. Thanks for your service.
And one thing regarding what each one of them add is, these offices are family. You know, they stay because they care about each other and they care about the community and what they do. So I want to thank each one of them for their service. Okay, reports.
We have Rayanna Mella here to vote to approve the accounts payable cash requirement report.
Okay.
Hope I didn't butcher that too much, did I?
Yes, a little bit.
Did I? It's okay. Sorry.
And the room has drastically gone empty.
That's okay with me as well. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Presented to you is the cash requirements report due through June 8th, 2022 that were paid on June 1st, 2022 in the amount of $1,246,164.73.
Okay, any questions? No. Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
your
man.
digging right in there.
Thank you.
You're new and we appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I'll move on to action items. The first two are mine. The first item I have is vote to approve the agreement with Janice Ofrin, MD. This is for the Public Defender's Office. This is for an upcoming case. This individual specializes in pediatric forensic pathology services.
Okay, I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
The next item I have is vote to approve amendment to agreement with Chen Incorporated. This is for the prison and pre-release. This is for the sweat patches and screening for detection of drug abuse. We are just simply revising the pricing schedule, retroactive back to January 1st to show the new 2022 rates.
Okay. Have a motion?
Did the rates go? Oh, I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Did the rates go up at all?
I believe in one area they did, but for the, I have to double check because I don't want to speak incorrectly, but.
That's okay. This is our typical contract.
It's our annual,
Got it.
yeah.
Annual contract. Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. So carried.
The next item is vote to approve memorandum of understanding with the Susquehanna Greenway Partnership. This is an amendment to that agreement, and Allison Herman's here.
Morning, Allison.
Good morning, Commissioners. I will be presenting an amendment to the agreement between Lycoming County and the Susquehanna Greenway Partnership. The agreement is for the DCNR grant-funded Greater Williamsport Area Greenway Wayfinding Plan, and the amendment outlines SGP's role as both a contracted service and a source of matching costs.
Okay, have a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
So carried. Thank you. Have a good day.
The next item is vote to approve update to the Lycoming County Emergency Management Agency Nuclear Radiological Incident Plan. It's the Annex A for the nuclear power plant incidents. I'm not sure if Kelly's on the line.
Kelly, you with us?
If not, I can speak to it if you
Okay.
like.
Yes,
It's
please.
just a plan that they have to do, and as required, they have to do this every year to get their plan, and then we have to sign off on it saying that we're in agreement with it.
Okay. Have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
The next item is vote to approve the closeout agreement with the United, oh, sorry.
That's how thick the plan is.
Yes, it's
Shannon.
not, it's a comprehensive
Yeah,
plan,
yeah.
yes. And actually, that's just not even the entirety of it either, like it's just, yeah.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and move on.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. 4.5, vote to approve the closeout agreement with the United States Environmental Protection Agency, and Jenny should be on.
Yes, she is. Morning, Jenny.
Hi, Commissioners. This is an updated EPA closeout agreement from the EPA outlining the grant terms and conditions for management and use of program income generated pre and post closeout with our grant. It's for our county's brownfield revolving loan fund grant.
So, Jenny, this document, we are doing the EPA grant. This is simply the EPA telling us what we've got to do on the closeout on the back end, right?
Correct. Yep, the EPA had different terms and conditions for every grant year, so they're trying to have standard terms and conditions for all grantees across every fiscal year. So it outlines updated conditions about what we could do after we get funds back, after they revolve back into our loan program, and increases the cap for both loans and grants for our program.
You're starting to see this as a new mechanism with some of the grants that are more complex. You'll have a specific, rather than your standard like audit type stuff that's in your original agreement, you're starting to have a separate agreement so that you know the criteria, because it's not a typical like audit or a closeout. So that's probably why they're doing it with this as well.
Okay. You know, I think it would be great, Jenny, for the public if you could just in a minute or so tell them who is eligible for this type of grant, describe what it does.
Sure. We are planning to do a public launch later on. This is the kind of grant end with the EPA before we formally launch the program. But the county did receive an $800,000 EPA federal grant a few years ago to establish a revolving loan fund, which would clean up brownfield sites in the county. We are going to be establishing both loans and grants to be used to clean up contaminated sites. Coming up this summer, hopefully we'll launch the program. So you'll see another formal presentation that I'll do before you and the public.
Great.
This is one of the forms we needed to have in place before we officially launch the program.
And thank you, Jenny. And we know it's been difficult. We got this grant a couple years ago, and we've been so short-staffed that we haven't been able to really run it. And you've hung in there with it. You have held from saying to us we should send it back because we don't ever want to send back money. But you guys have done a very good job up there in planning. So thank you for that.
Okay, a motion.
I'll move to approve.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
4.6, vote to approve letter of support with Diamond Rose Associates. Ian Shannon is here.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have two letters today. One is for the Greer Street Manor apartment complex. Diamond Rose Associates is applying to the Pennsylvania Housing and Financing Authority for low-income housing tax credits. That's a 30-unit apartment complex in the city of Williamsport that specifically caters to lower-income elderly tenants. They're all one-bedroom units. So that is just a letter of support for their project, an application. The other letter is the Lynn Street program where they have asked the county to help support the project with some funding also. So the second letter is supporting the Lynn Street project. It's 26 one-bedroom housing units. It also is low-income elderly housing. And we have offered them, contingent upon them receiving the low-income housing tax credit application to the Pennsylvania Housing and Finance Authority, $75,000 towards that project. If possible, if afterwards, could I have them signed, please?
Yes.
It's due, I think, Monday.
And these both are the partners on this. One of them is Bob Yoder from Yoder Building,
and there's various other partners. They've changed over the years, and now this newer partnership is called Diamond Rose.
Right.
Both of them are located in the city of Williamsport, though. We're as we've identified in our county comprehensive plan, we have a housing issue generally, but it's much more difficult for people who are elderly and on a fixed income to find quality, affordable housing. So these will keep 56 units available in the city area.
and that's the commissioners have a commitment to trying to help seniors who are living on fixed incomes to find affordable housing, and this $75,000 from the Act 137 funds will go through. And those Act 137 funds are the funds collected when people transfer real estate or a mortgage. Actually, it's the transfer tax, and the state takes part of it, and we get part of it. So,
and we'd like to work. The planning would like to work with the commissioners to try and set up some type of revolving program for those funds to continue to help other projects that will benefit the community.
Okay, thank you. Have a motion.
I'll move to approve both items.
All fair side? Aye. Aye, so carried.
I'll stick around for the letters.
Okay. Okay. Next.
It's Commissioner comment.
You have anything?
No, the only thing I want to say is to continue to just emphasize, we have vacancies. We still have 50 vacancies. It's a great time. You know, I noticed the people coming to the podium are they're different. They're new faces, right? A lot of people have retired. So there's an opportunity. If you're looking for a job, come to the county. You don't have to have you could start one place and wind up another, but we have openings and we would love to have you come and join us.
Commissioner, you have anything? No. Okay, public comment. Anybody from the public?
Could I
Yes.
provide an information
Yes, please,
item?
step up
Would
to
that
the
be
podium.
permissible? Okay.
Yep.
So this is Forrest Lehman from Voter Services, and I just wanted to present an information item about the recount we completed yesterday, and actually sitting in the meeting today, I was inspired as well, just to comment quickly that it is great. I don't go to these meetings very often, but it is great to see you bringing in organizations, people, county employees who have served to talk about their work, because it's easy to watch the news today and be depressed, by all the bad that is out there, because that's what they focus on. So it's gratifying to know that and see personally there are profound forces of good at work in our community. It's just good to be reminded of that, so thank you for that. But I did want to thank county employees, their supervisors who helped us with the recount yesterday. It was a big project. And it's, I think, worth pausing just on the significance of what a recount entails, because we had to do it for the Republican Senate contest here after the primary, and we also had to do it for the Commonwealth Court contest after the November election last year. And it entails recounting every ballot cast in the election, 25,000 in the primary, 23,000 last November. We recount them on completely different equipment from how they were counted in the election. So it's a complete second opinion on the election. And, both this recount and the one we did in November, it confirmed that our equipment counts those votes correctly, and that the outcome of the election was correct, because we have results from the recount. They'll be published later today, I expect. But it shows that, 7 candidates, I think it was, or 8 candidates running for that Senate contest, and their vote totals either stayed the same or they shifted by 1 or 2 or maybe 3 votes. And that lines up very closely with all the other counties that have published recount results in this contest so far, where they've shifted by, I think, up to maybe 4 votes in some other counties. So, again, it confirms that when we are giving people ballots and saying put them through the scanner, count them, that those results are coming out accurate. And it's proving that all the county employees that come together and do elections, and in my office, outside my office, that we did our work right the first time. My staff is probably tired of hearing me joke that we had so much fun in the election. When there's a recount, we get to do it all over again. But there is some value in that exercise, and I think the value there came through today. It shows that what we're doing works.
Forrest, I'd just like for you to restate the method. So you have the regular election, and now
Yep.
you have to recount.
Yes.
So are you saying that you recount all the ballots, but they're used on different equipment?
That's right.
Okay, so the reason why they're used on different equipment is what?
Is to get an entire second opinion on the election.
Right, it's
so
not the same equipment.
That's right. So people who voted on election day, they may have put their ballot through a scanner that scans a single ballot at a time. Those ballots during the recount are put through a central scanner that takes large batches of ballots and scans them through all at once. So it's a different device.
Is it a different manufacturer?
In that case, yes.
And that's very important that, because some people question Dominion and this one and Clear Choice and, it is different, so they're coming up with the same result.
In this case, the central scanners are made by Fujitsu. It's still part of the same voting system, but it's different equipment that's scanning the ballots. It's not a single ballot scanner. Once we already have those ballots and we're doing a recount, you also know exactly how many ballots are in each batch. You're looking at that. And you also know what the initial vote totals were, so you're looking for them to align to that as well. And when we did the recount of Commonwealth Court in November, the vote counts shifted by about the same amount. We saw candidates either stay exactly the same or they shifted. I think one candidate gained 3 votes, a candidate gained a vote. And a lot of that comes down to you're directing increased scrutiny on some of the marginal marks or overvotes, and it may be that you look at one of those a little differently, or you have a lawyer who's sitting there with you and you have a back and forth, and that may cause an interpretation of 1 or 2 of those marks to change.
I'm just going to bring this up because you're doing a tremendous job, but you're also putting a lot more effort into getting data for these couple organizations that are asking for a recount. And one of the issues, and you brought this up in one of your talking points, is that you can't determine how a voter's going to vote in the box, And so I had Brianne do a little bit of homework for me this morning, and we went back to the 2012 primary, right? And there was 58,432 registered voters.
And that's Democratic and Republican.
That's both.
Who are able to vote. Yeah.
But the actual vote, people that voted, was 16,063.
Yeah.
So in the presidential, this is the primary, yet 14,821 people cast their vote for president. That's about 1,500 less than the actual votes. So there were people that voted that didn't vote for president.
Yeah,
right?
and when you look at I have to look at the ballots when we go looking at marginal marks and interpreting overvotes and things like that. And you see that there are people who do these things, that they will skip the top thing on the ballot, or they will vote for the top 2 things and then skip the rest of it. There are, when you talk about having a county with 71,000 registered voters, which is what we have, that's 71,000 different ways that someone can vote a ballot, and everybody's going to come at that with their own interests, their own values, their own political opinions, their own sense of how they should go about it. To some people, they feel like, well, I got to vote in every contest, no matter what. Other people may come at it and say, well, I don't like any of the people in this contest, so I'm not going to vote it. Or I don't know enough about the people in that contest, so maybe I won't vote that. Everybody's got their own ideas about what they think is the right way to go about it, and the election is the place for them to do that, but it means they're going to do that in different ways, express their viewpoints.
And I think it's clear, at least on this issue, like in the Senate, 15,145 people voted. They voted more for the Senate that year than they did for the president. The Attorney General, only 13,776 people. Congress was 14,064. And then you go into the general election where you had registered voters, because this is one of the issues that they raise.
Yeah.
In the primary, there was 58,432, but in the general election, there was 68,070. That's almost 10,000 more votes. People registered.
Because that total, and it's not even that it's new registrations, that total includes your third-party voters who are not included in the total for the primary. So when I tell Department of State, or I certify on my website, these are voter registration numbers going into a primary, it's only people who are eligible. So only Democratic and Republican. Now, occasionally we've had primaries where there's a referendum on the ballot, or we had the special election for Congressman Marino's seat in 2019 in the primary. And in those cases, you are certifying everybody is being eligible to participate, because third-party voters can still vote in a special election or on a referendum if that's on the ballot in the primary. So now you're going to certify that we have 69,000 or 70 or 71,000 registered voters, but Normally in a primary, you're only certifying Ds and Rs, so you will see that shift, but it's not a reflection of new people registering or people being canceled. It's a reflection of who is eligible to participate in that election because we have a closed primary system in Pennsylvania.
Then I think the most important stat of all is because Lycoming County has a lot more Republicans than they do Democrats, and one of the elections, Rick Marabito won his election, 13,318 versus the Republican at 9,000. That's 4,000 unaccounted votes. I'm sorry, did we recount?
But in November, in a November election, it's worth remembering we do have 9,000 or 10,000 third-party voters that can do you don't want to assume that somebody affiliated Democratic or Republican is always going to vote for those people, but you definitely can't make any kinds of assumptions about third-party voters. They could go either way themselves in a November election.
Commissioner Massare, I'm glad you raised the 2012, not because of my campaign, which you should have had a recount on, but no, I'm glad you raised it because it really highlights that we've gotten so supercharged around some stuff that maybe we lose sight of some of the historical data. So I'm glad you had our intern, who maybe the chairman will introduce in a minute. But I wanted to mention also, Forrest, all those employees who pitched in, and of course I know you recognize all those judges and volunteers and election
poll workers,
who really tried to make sure that it was a fair and honest election and kept their eye out if there was anything going on, and we have to respect them for that too.
They are incredible people. We could not do an election in 81 precincts across geographically the largest county in the state without them. We need 400 to 500 people, depending on the scope of the election, to make that happen. And these are people who they're from their communities, from that township, from that borough, even from that ward in that borough, and they are people's friends, family members, neighbors. They put in a long day. I mean, I work an 18-hour day on election day, but they're working at least 13, 14, 15 hours to make that happen themselves. They're definitely not doing it for the money. I mean, we're trying to compensate them what we can. We're always seeing what we can do to make it better for them. But they're definitely not doing it for the money. They're doing it to serve their communities. And we really can't thank them or appreciate them enough because it has gotten more challenging for them in recent years.
And when you said about the size, we're larger than the state of Rhode Island.
Yeah.
So we're running an election every time in a state basically is bigger than Rhode Island.
Probably just from campaigning in this county, some of these precincts are so far away that on election night they're driving an hour, some of the farthest out ones, to get in here with their returns. If you're up in McNeck Township, you got a long trip, and they're doing it anyway. They're still they have to. They're required by law to get back by 2 a.m. or I have to come to them. But they've got a long trip to come back.
Right. Well, thanks for your service, Forrest. We appreciate everything you and your staff does.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They got a great staff.
And then the special election board meeting is on Tuesday. That's been advertised, correct?
Yes, and there will be one on Monday also to discuss the undated ballots as well.
And they've both been advertised?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, and one last thing, we'd like to introduce Grant.
More public comment.
Oh, is there any more public comment this time? I'm sorry, Tom's over in the corner.
Yeah.
Morning.
Morning. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Alrighty.
You switched seats on us today.
Yeah.
Behind the pillar.
I mean, more people were coming in.
Yeah.
Kind of happens.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you all at the Memorial Day service, or Saturday. I missed the one on Memorial Day, kind of wasn't sure about exactly where it was because I'm still getting acclimated to some things here after moving, but yeah, thank you, Forrest, for all your work, and it's good. I'm glad you went through the explanation. It's good for the people to hear how those things can happen. Say a few votes shifted here and there, and you figure how does that happen? But when you mention there's always a little thing, little marks or something, and if you can't, they have to be determined because it's true. Some people just don't pay attention when they're pulling some things out. And so it's not an easy thing, but I was a poll watcher, and I was there the whole day, and it was pretty interesting. People really do a good work, do a good job, and they stay on top of it. I appreciate it. I was just going to bring up some things with the parole workers, and you had people from I'm sorry, American Rescue Workers, and these people are, once again, they're all doing the work of the Lord. You know, the people working in government, the parole officers and things, that they have to do a job to keep themselves under control too at the same time if they wanted to be effective to actually help people who don't want help. You know, especially with parole officers and law officers and things. And I think the biggest problem is we're becoming a nation of fools, because the fool said in his heart there is no God. And, you know, the Bible speaks that a lot. Foolish, out of Proverbs 11:25, a foolish son is a grief to his father and bitterness to his mother. And then we have a lot of people that might identify as Christian, but they don't want to take the Bible, living for God, seriously. And then we see a lot of the prophets in the Old Testament. They're not prophesying good days. Most of the time they're prophesying, you know, destruction and God's judgment, because it's natural for us to turn away from God and do what He wants. He doesn't have to tell us to lie. He doesn't have to tell us to ignore our neighbors. He doesn't have, you know, just love your neighbor. You keep reminding us. These are the commands, you know. And if we try to keep those commands in the forefront of our thoughts with our neighbors too, not just our, you know, not to keep to ourselves, we can have a positive effect on our community and our nation. So in Hosea and Ezekiel, especially, just looking at some of the prophecies there, they're talking to the kings and the judges and the pastors, and they're saying, look, you know, you stopped calling on me, you stopped recognizing me and my ways, you know, and not just in your community between yourselves, like in your church community, synagogue community, it's in the community and your government. And he says it to the kings and the judges. He doesn't stand for unrighteousness. And so in Psalm 111, in a couple of the verses, great are the works of the Lord, they are studied by all who delight in them. He has given food to those who fear him. He remembers covenant forever. He has made known to his people the power of his works, and giving them the heritage of the nations. And that's one of the pictures of the United States. He's given us the heritage of the nations. We are strong, and because we had people that knew what was righteous and what was wrong. And I have a quote here from Douglas MacArthur. Let me bring it up. I'm trying to find it. Oh, sorry. You all know who he was. And this is in 1951 in December. In this day of gathering storms, as moral deterioration of political power spreads its growing infection, it is essential that every spiritual force be mobilized to defend and preserve the religious base upon which this nation is founded. For it has been that base which has been the motivating impulse to our moral and national growth. History fails to record a single precedent in which nations subject to moral decay have not passed into political and economic decline. There has been either a spiritual reawakening to overcome the moral lapse, or a progressive deterioration leading to ultimate national disaster. So that's from, you know, that's 51, and he was a strong Christian, and he was really upset, of course, with not going into China and taking care of the communists at the end of the war. And we see how that turned out. So you see, we have these things, people with the shooting down in Texas. There's some real bad actors in behind our government, and I was reminded this past week of the Council of Foreign Relations. They have a lot of powerful people that work behind the scenes, and you wonder why some of these things are happening in our government. What happened with Afghanistan? It's those people, and that's a big part of it, because they're not. I mean, a lot of them hold political office, but that's a different entity that gets their funding and from world power bankers, and they just push things the wrong way. But there's this big push for Convention of States or Constitutional Convention, and they're claiming it's for amendments to the Constitution. Well, I'm of the opinion we have too many amendments as there is now. Some of the amendments have to go away. Specifically, the ones about electing the senators, that should go back to the states, the legislatures. Also, with that Convention of States, obviously they can do amendments without a Convention of States. This Convention of States is to get rid of this Constitution that we have, and that's the biggest danger we could have. So I think we need to stay on our congressmen and elected representatives, say no to that, because it won't go well. There's only one other constitutional convention. That was when they founded the Constitution originally. And at that time, they called a constitutional convention, and a fellow from Rhode Island, I think, had concerns. He said, well, you can't do anything because you need 100% of the vote, to change anything. Well, they scrapped the whole thing that was there, and because of the Constitutional Convention. They didn't have to go by the old rules. Once you do that, you open it up, and they came out with what we what we have now. But because we're not standing on it is the problem. And so with the guns, though, I'm also the opinion if more people were armed, good, law-abiding people were armed without oversight, there'd be a lot less of these shootings, and a lot more people would be saved.
Thank you, Tom. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public? We're honored to have a new intern with our office, Brianne Doan. She's from Bloomsburg. Well, she's from Matursville, but she attended Bloomsburg, honors student in political science, and she'll be with us all summer. And she's already been given a couple projects to work on. We heard of one this morning already. And so thank you so much for being with us. And as she gets exposed to county government, she'll be going around to different departments. For us, she'll be making her way over to see you eventually, and Shannon, and she was with juvenile probation yesterday for a short time. Really was enlightened on what they do. Found it very interesting, and so we look forward to summer with Brianne, and thank you. Okay, anything else? At this time, we'll be adjourned. There will be no public meeting next week. We'll have our next one on June the 16th, Thursday, June 16th at 10 a.m. We'll be at different locations next week. I'll be in Washington, D.C. regarding the levy, and other two commissioners will be at a conference on blighted properties, I believe, at that time. So local meeting on that. So we'll be here again on June 16th at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want us to sign something?
I do.
Okay.
I have one for you. Okay.
Fortunately, are smart. We get you what I get.
I think my service pins ought to be for presidential elections and not yours.
It's great.
Is it just one copy?
Yeah, just that. I'll have more later, but for now, it's...
Mr. Macer.
Have a good day, Tom.
Pass that to Mr. Macer.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Oh, yeah, hang on to that phone. Yeah.
Thanks, Maya.
Thanks, Maya.
Yep. We'll see you.
I'll have more things to sign later on.